guys, so here she is. After a month-ish of waiting, here's my mid-year 2020 Alfa Romeo Giulia Lusso limited package. And when I say limited package, I didn't say track package or track special edition, because I'll get into that later, because I don't think this car is any sort of track ready or not. I think it's just the sort of a gimmick type of thing, but this car actually has a lot of gimmick. And before we get into the actual car review, let's talk a little bit about why do I choose to buy an Alfa Romeo? Well, the answer to that is actually quite simple, because I don't want to drive a car that everybody drives. We have tons of BMW 3 Series on the road, 5 Series on the road, as well as a lot of Mercedes C-Class with the AMG badge in the back, which I do not approve that kind of way of doing things, but if you like it, that's sort of your choice. Alfa Romeo in China has a terrible track record of, electronic things gets break all the time. The screen gets freeze and it doesn't even have a touch screen. But that's all changed in 2020. I'll get into the interior spec a little bit later, but first let's run down the specs really quick. This car equipped with a inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. The turbocharge is water-cooled instead of air-cooled, which I think it's in some applications it's nice to be water-cooled, but in most applications it's rather dangerous. It sort of heavily depends on the weather and the altitude of your driving state and things like that. This car produced 280 horsepower to the rear wheel, to the crank, and 400 Newton meters of torque to the crank as well. And this car also equipped it with a carbon fiber prop shaft, the double wishbone front suspension, and multi-link suspension in the back, which, in this price range, I don't think a lot of car has this kind of equipment, hardware equipment. I think that's crazy. And as a lot of you know, this car is a reversed engineer from the Quattrofolio, which is a 2.9 liter twin turbocharged V6 engine, which produced 503 horsepower. That's the big brother of everything. A lot of people are saying that that car is a sort of a V6 Ferrari, which I think it's actually quite true, because the engine was designed by the engineer worked at the Ferrari factory. So yeah, my history with Alfa Romeo started with the Quattrofolio. When I was in United States, I think earlier 2018, I heard about this car. I really want to get my hands on one of these cars. So I had a friend who worked at the Alfa Romeo factory, the dealership. So I borrowed the Quattrofolio at the time. At the time, I didn't have cameras or, do any sort of recording of that car. I just went there and tried to experience myself. And I must say, that's a fantastic car. Alfa Romeo always makes great driving machine, like the front wheel drive, little sort of daily commute car. This is the first car that has this classic sports car platform, which has the front mid engine to be more precise, and the rear wheel drive, platform. I really adore that. And before I came back to China, I don't even know this car has a 2-liter 4-cylinder variant. I went to the Alfa Romeo dealer, I think in August or in September, I can't remember, and drove the 2019 model year Alfa Romeo Giulia Lusso, or the Sport TI. And I don't really like the car because the steering wheel is very light. I like the suspension. I like the geometry of the suspension, because I feel everything from the lower part of my body, but upper part of my body, my hands feel nothing on the steering wheel. I kind of hated that because, coming from a Porsche 718 owner, if you watch my previous video, I also own a Porsche 718. Porsche 718 is a sports car, so the steering wheel is very heavy. I basically feel everything on the road. My body's shaking with the car, but with the 2019 Alfa Romeo Giulia, I don't feel that. But this year, they have fixed that. The steering wheel is a little bit more heavier. Of course, they still transfer a lot of, road information like bumps and creeps and all of that, but they also filtered out lots of imperfections on the road. It makes you feel like you're driving a luxury car. For a sports-oriented car, a sporty sedan, a sporty saloon car, I don't really like that kind of feeling that helps you to to feel better inside, I'd rather feel, you know, everything on the road makes me feel more engaged. I'll get into that when in the you know, driving aspect of this video. If you own a 2017 to 2019 Alfa Romeo Giulia, I'm sorry to tell you, this interior is much more nicer. So hi guys, apparently I have to apologize. It seems like I have lost my footage of me talking about the interior part of this car, which is one of the, you know, the key feature of this whole video, because the interior of the 2020 Alfa Romeo Giulia is one of the highlights of this sort of facelift half-year, sort of mid-year upgrades. So I'm inside a empty parking lot right now, so I've decided to sort of make up for this part of the video inside the parking garage to tell you guys what's new about this interior. The first thing is, of course, in 2020, they do not have a 200 horsepower Alfa Romeo Giulia anymore, so they'll have 280 horsepower as a base model. You'll have the premium package, and then you will have this package, which only has 109 in the whole world. This is a limited package. As you can see, the stripe up there, that's why it's limited. And of course, you will have a plaque that says 1 of 109, which means this car is, you know, just add that little bit of exclusivity to this car. And let's get into the interior part of things. Oh, the other thing is, yes, you'll have a red start button as a standard equipment in all the new 2020 Alfa Romeo Giulia. And inside, of course, this is a 7-inch or 7.2 or somewhere around that, a TFT screen, which shows the infotainment system and all things like that. I'll talk about that in my driving aspect of the video. And of course, you have your tachometer and your sort of speedometer. And of course, the speed goes all the way to 260 kilometers per hour. But I don't think this car can reach that high. The official figures is probably 250 kilometers, which is the top speed of this car. And of course, you will have this huge one-piece aluminium pedal shifter, which is mounted directly to the steering column, which I really like this way of mounting it. A lot of people think, well, not think, a lot of people has the car that mounted on the steering wheel. The flappy pedal gearbox is mounted on the steering wheel, like my Porsche 718, it's also mounted on the steering wheel. For a lot of people, it's much more convenient to actually mount it on steering wheel because, you know, you're turning wheels and you always have this flappy pedal gearbox right here. But the right way of mounting it, at least old school way of mounting it, like right now still Lamborghinis and Ferraris are doing this, a lot of supercars are doing this, mounted on the steering column directly. The way they do this is because in the old days when you're doing racing, like track days and things like that, you're not supposed to downshift in the mid corner, which means when you're turning in or in the middle of the corner, you're not allowed to sort of downshift because the transmission probably cannot take that force. But nowadays the transmissions are getting much more smarter, so you can actually do that. But I do prefer this way, and some people are saying if you mounted this on the steering column, when you're turning, even if you're turning a very tight corner, you can still, you know, find your sort of gearbox, because no matter which way you're turning, you always know that on your left hand is downshift and on your right hand is upshift. And this, just listen to that, that clicking sound is so satisfying. It makes me want to use it more. But this car is so new. It only has like 200 or 300 kilometers on it. This car is like basically very new, and it's in the braking period, so I rarely use this. I just touch this gently. And the thing about this car is because you have this huge flappy pedal gearbox right here, it's a little bit hard to reach into, you know, those kind of turn signal stock. Of course, on this side, your windshield wiper stock and things like that. And on those two sides, you also have two buttons. This is for the lane keep assist. This car also equipped with level 2 autonomous driving, I think, but in China I really use that because we are so crowded all the time. And on this side you'll have a little button which controls this TFT screen. I'll show that a little bit later. And now we go here. Although this thing looks huge, like you kind of feel like this whole thing is a screen, and you know, you also have a lot of fingerprints on there. Sorry, I didn't wipe it. But this screen also probably is like this size and cut from here. So this part is just black, you know, piece inside, and the screen on this side is probably this big, so this side is basically useless. So yeah, they made it feel like seamless, like this whole thing is a screen, but no, it's not that much. But the good thing about this is now a touchscreen. This is 8.8-inch touchscreen, so it's actually pretty good. I for a lot of people, touchscreen is sort of an old technology. I think in 2012, a lot of people come up with touch screen and things like that. But Alfa Romeo is slowly getting to the trend and get a touchscreen in 2020 model year. So yeah, this now is a touchscreen. I'll demonstrate a little bit of the touchscreen function a little bit later. And we go down here. This is a sort of a whole new sort of a center console right here. You still have your like air conditioning, climate control right here, and this car also equipped it with a steering wheel, a heated steering wheel, which I kind of feel like it's a gimmick kind of thing, because why would you need a heated steering? It just makes it feel more luxurious, and I think that's all. But on this part, you see in the 2017 to 2019 model, you'll have a little flap right here which you can close, make this thing look so clean. But now they just put two huge cup holder here, and this is also an ashtray. This is a sort of piece of rubber and plastic. You can just easily pull this off and clean it up and things like that. So yeah, that's what they call ashtray. I don't think I'll smoke in the car. And also down here you have this Italian flag. This piece is aluminium, and you have your leather wrapped sort of shift knob right here. This is a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, which is a traditional torque converter sort of transmission. I'm actually very surprised with this sort of a special tuned ZF transmission, because they actually performs pretty good on the daily basis. I haven't driven this car sort of aggressively because it's so new. And now we go down here. This whole piece is aluminium, as well as this is aluminium as well. It's pretty nice, but this part, I don't think it's leather. I think it's just some sort of rubber, because this is not that sort of high tech. And you look down here, you can see the panel gaps. You can see probably behind it, probably gonna get dust in there. You see this little gap right here. It's not big, but it's an Italian car, so I kind of have to accept it. This part is plastic. There's nothing special. I do like the design. This is very old school, very sporty, but yeah, it's plastic. Yeah, down here, last generation, 2017 to 2019 model year, a lot of people were saying that this car, everything inside is very wobbly and flimsy and things like that. But this year they sort of fixed it. Every button feels like solid. I touch it, there's no wiggling, there's no sort of moving around. Everything's very solid. They moved the parking, the electronic parking, the e-brake from here. From this spot to here, so it's much easier. Everything is right here. And they also have this little socket where you can put your key inside this socket, which I think it's an overkill kind of thing, but yeah, they did it as well. And you have your volume control. You can still use this wheel to control your infotainment system, but you can also use your finger now. And down here, this part is interesting. This part is this socket right here. You can actually put your phone in there, and this is a wireless charging pad. I can charge my iPhone 10 right here. I don't know why. It's probably some spec sort of limitations and things like that. And now you can open this without sort of hitting your hand, because I know in 2017 to 2019 model year, this part is totally flat. So when you close it, you're probably going to hit your hand. But in this generation, you won't, that won't happen. When you open it up, in here you have another place to hold your key. I read the user manual. They said if your key is out of battery, you can just put your key right there, which fits perfectly. They sort of can charge your key. I don't know if it's real, but they kind of, you can sort of charge your key right here. It fits perfectly, very snug. And this space is actually, quite small. This is my hand, a regular man size hand. This place is quite small. You probably can put a lot of things in there. But what interesting down here is you have a regular USB 3.0 and a auxiliary, and also you will have a Type-C port. The reason for these 3 ports is, of course, you can charge your phone with it, and also if you connect your iPhone or your Android phone, you'll have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but in China I think it's Baidu Life, like that. But yeah, you can just connect your phone and it will show up on the screen, so it's very helpful. So yeah, I think that's basically it. And again, I'll say, the seats, this is the worst part of this whole car. The seats is like flat. There's no support. Driving this car for long distance is definitely going to make you back sore, things like that, because I really don't like these seats. Everything else sort of feels solid. And also you'll have your a glove box right here. It's also very tiny space. There's a huge bump right here, so you probably can only put things inside here, which is not wide. It's about this wide, so yeah, you probably can put a lot of things in there. And yeah, that's that. Let's push the start button and show you something inside of this those screen. I changed this in English, this whole car in English, much easier for me to read. Of course, the Chinese translation is actually horrible, so that's why I put it back into English. So yeah, the funny thing about this whole thing is that, you see, if I turn off the car, and if I turn it on again, you see that ESC off, which means this car, it will turn off the ESC. If you haven't heard of it, that all the Giulia except the Giulia Sport TI, which in China is Veloce TI, the highest trim level for the 280 horsepower one. That one you can set your suspension, you can adjust your damper, dampening power in your 280 horsepower like highest trim level. You'll have an extra button right here which you can stiffer your suspension, but in this model you don't have it, although they call it track edition. That's why I don't call it track edition, because you can adjust this, and also you can't turn off your like traction control, ESC and ABS. You can't turn all of those things off. So that's very annoying, because that means you have a front mid-engine car with a rear-wheel drive and a carbon fiber prop shaft, and you can do burnout, and you can slide, you can do drift, you can't do any of that, and they call this a track edition, which annoys me quite a lot. So I don't think this is a track edition, but it does feel very sporty. So without, yeah, let's just talk about a little bit more about this screen. So now we're in this infotainment screen. Let me turn off the light. All right, very gently. Yeah, now we're in this infotainment sort of screen. You can see how big is this screen. It's really not too much, not too much real estate in here. But the funny thing is, or not the funny thing, the good thing is this is a touch screen, so you can just enlarge this, which is very sensitive. And on this screen, you can have your oil level, your oil pressure actually, and your boost pressure, and of course how much torque you're using while you're driving, which is very nice. And then you can also have your performance page, which I have. This is a consumption history, which is how much fuel you have wasted or you're doing like enthusiastic driving. And on this page, you'll have another sort of efficient drive, which is the A mode, I think, the A mode of this car. So I basically keep it in this page basically all the time. So you'll have your oil, your boost, and your torque, and you can just turn this off and have this, vehicle information and all that. This is very Android-like, because this is an Android system. And of course, you'll have your phone, your date, and also you have your driving assistance, which you'll have your blind spot monitoring, and your lane keep assist, and the front collision warning. This front collision warning is very gimmicky. It's another sort of gimmick about this car, because this car does not have a front radar. I don't know why, because this is a limited edition. I can't choose to put a front radar on this car. It comes with, it comes as a whole package. So whatever it has, I have to accept it. So yeah, it doesn't have a front radar, which is very rare in the modern sort of vehicle, but I have to trust my own drive and things like that. I have to get used to with this car. And you can also connect this car to Wi-Fi or hotspot on your phone, which is pretty handy. When you have anything that, bad happened, you can just call SOS, or the car will call SOS automatically, which is pretty nice. And you can control your climate control either on the screen, and of course down here with this kind of, whole layout of your climate control kind of thing. And yeah, that's basically about this screen. It's just very handy that you'll have a touch screen, which is very nice. And of course the whole, let me turn the lights on. Of course the whole interior is much more sort of a modern in some way. I would say this shift knob still feels very like cheap, although they have the leather wrapped the whole thing. It feels much more nice. It's not that plasticky, but you can feel this thing's not. it doesn't weigh too much, you know. It basically tells you that you should use your flappy paddle gearbox much more. So that's, you know, what I use basically all the time, just clicking this. Oh, the sound is so satisfying. So yeah, that's basically about this interior. There's nothing, you know, much more dramatic about this whole thing. It's just for a lot of previous model years owner, like 2017 to 2019 owners. They probably gonna be a little bit jealous with this kind of interior, especially when you now have your touchscreen right here. So yeah, I'm sorry for this very poor quality of this interior review. I know this is one of the most important part of this car, but I seem to lost the part of that footage, so I'm really sorry. And yeah, the other thing here is in 2020 model year, although you still have the flat button steering wheel, and they have a little plank here. This is a blank part of a piece of plastic. I think this is left for the Quattrofolio version. The 2020 Quattrofolio version probably going to have a Quattrofolio right here, so that's why they have this piece, sort of a piece of, you know, blank plastic right here. It's for that logo, for that icon, I think. Yeah, let's now start up the car, and yeah, see how the screen gonna show something else. So now I have start up the car. You can see it's a very clean and actually rather huge screen right here. Well, it's not huge, but it's useful. So now I'm in the normal mode. So I can choose to show me the speed, and also I can choose to show my trip information and my consumption. This is my instant consumption, and down there you have your like average consumption, which is 14.2 liter per 100 kilometer, which is insane because this is a new car. It burns a lot of oil, which is reasonable. I hope it'll get down as, you know, time goes by. And of course, on this last page, this is special page. This is your lane keep page. So, you know, when you turn on your lane kept assistant, you'll have, you know, the computer, the array of a camera right here will sort of recognize the road, the lane, and keep you in the lane. And if you're off the lane, the whole steering wheel is actually going to shake, and they're going to correct the car just a little bit, so you're inside the lane, which is basically level 2 autonomous driving, which is quite handy. But in China, I don't plan to use it quite a lot. So if now I change the mode to dynamic, which is the sport mode of this thing, the screen is going to change just a little bit. You'll still have your speed, you still have your trip, which is configurable. Everything's configurable. You see now up here I have my lane assist, this little 2 line right here. This 2 line means now the car has recognized 2 lanes in front of me, so the car will try to help me keep me in the lane when I'm driving. Which 2 lane is that 2 lane right here? It's quite silly. I'm in a parking lot. So now we're in the special page, which is this page. If you can see in this page, let me focus the whole thing. Yeah, in this page, now you'll have this page which has gas, brake, and water temperature. This is special in this dynamic mode. When I push my gas, you see, it shows how many percentage or how many sort of pressure I put on my gas. If I push the brake, you see, that thing also moves. So it means how many brake I'm applying for this car, which I think is kind of cool. Yeah, that's basically about this. And then if I put into, like, you know, A mode, which is advanced economy, I think it's advanced economy or something. You'll also have a special screen right here. Let's see. Yeah, this special screen, which is basically still your oil consumption, your fuel consumption, and things like that. All those things are configurable, so you can just change it the way you want it to. So yeah, that's that. And yeah, that's basically about this interior. There's nothing really special. The thing that I really hate about this car is, like, you can't turn off your traction control, you can't turn off your like ESC and all of that electronic things. The thing about, but for an Alfa Romeo, I kind of understand what they were doing this, because Italians, it's like they don't want they don't want you to drive the car the way you want to drive it. They want you to drive it the way they want you to drive it. So yeah, it's very Italian. I'd say it's very Italian. So when it comes to Alfa Romeo, there's a lot of flaws about this car, but because it is an Alfa Romeo, you tend to sort of forget it and forgive whatever this car asks you to do. It's just, you know, just look at the steering wheel. Just look at everything this car makes you feel. Now, in 2020 model year, everything you touch is pretty nice. This is a leather-wrapped steering wheel. I have this red button right here. Every time I push this button, it makes me feel like I'm gonna start up a sort of rocket ship. I know Lamborghini has an even crazier one, which is basically directly from a fighter jet. That one is even crazier. But yeah, this does makes me feel like, you know, it's very nice. It's very unique. I'm not gonna say this is something special. It's just very gimmicky, I have to say. It's far away from actual Ferrari and things like that, but it's very gimmicky. I still have to find my key because my Porsche is right here. But now it's right here, and my other car is sort of right here. So it's like I have to find where the stop button basically all the time. And yeah, and this side is just basic module of controlling lights and things like that. You can also turn off your stop, auto hold and things like that. This car does not have an auto hold. It just can turn off the engine temporarily to save fuel and things like that. So yeah, this part is also directly borrowed from, I think, a GM car and things like that, because it looks so familiar. And you have your window control right here, your like mirror control right here. I'm sorry, it's so dark inside. I'm really sorry for this quality. But yeah, that's basically about this interior. It's really nothing very special about this. It's just this whole upgrades. This is what I really like about this centerpiece. This is why I decided to wait for like a month or so to get the 2020 model year. And this is one of the first, I think, reached in mainland China. And also I have that plaque to remind me that this is one of 109 car in the whole world. Makes me feel a little bit special. So yeah, let's get back to the actual driving part of this video, which is, you know, 2 days ago. Alright, driving the Alfa Romeo Giulia Lusso Track Edition. So yeah, when you start up the car, first thing you notice, you know, the sitting position is very aggressive. You kind of feel like you're driving some sort of serious sports cars and things like that. Everything is very driver-centric. Even the screen is coming sort of towards you instead of, you know, flat towards the back, which I think is a very nice design. And the steering wheel, like I said earlier, they have fixed the steering wheel, makes the steering wheel a little bit heavier so you can feel, you know, bumps and all of that through your upper body, through your hands and things like that. And because this car is fully loaded, you also have the steering heating, the heated steering function, which I think it's an overkill. Who does that? I mean, who need a heated steering? But a lot of car manufacturers start doing that, think that's a sort of a premium car special kind of function. I think it's just an overkill, but yeah, I have that. And the steering wheel is very nice. The 9-3 grip, you have those leather kind of stitching there, makes you feel like sporty and things like that. Well, everything about this car makes you feel sporty and all that. So yeah, that's the driving aspect of things. And the things about this car is because you have those two large, very, very large paddle shifters, you have to reach your hand all the way in to do, you know, windscreen wipers or your lights or your turn signals and all that, because they're way back there. But those paddle shifters, whenever you move your hand down there, try to do something, those paddle shifters always reminds you to drive more aggressively. And this ZF transmission, if you're, I'm now in normal mode, which is default mode when you start up the car. In the normal mode, this car drives very civilized. You know, it's very quiet. You hardly hear any sort of tire noise and all that. It's very civilized, it's very quiet, and because of the suspension geometry, it makes you feel like you're driving a sort of a luxury car on the road. And also, this suspension is fantastic, I would say. You know, the chassis transfers all the road information to the seats and to the chassis, and also filtered out lots of, you know, imperfections on the road. Makes you feel like you feel everything, but you don't. It's not overreacting to the road, so it makes you feel like, you know, very nice. It's just very nice. But, you know, compare. I know it's a wrong comparison. I shouldn't compare this with my 718, but compared to the 718, this car is much more gentle to the driver. Although it gives you that relative sporty feeling, it also makes sure that you are driving or handle this car comfortably. And you know, I'm right now stuck in the traffic. I have to find another alternative roads. Let's see. Let's go down here. Let's see where it leads us. Another thing about this car is its turning radius. This car, the full turn of this car only takes like 2.5 or 2.5 turns to fully turn this car. There's no play in the steering wheel, which for a lot of people, I think they have to have some time to get used to the steering wheel because it's so precise and so light compared to many other sort of sports car. This steering wheel is very like nimble. Per se, because you know, a little input of the steering wheel, you can feel the car just instantly react to that input, you know, just to give you that instant feedback. And I really like that kind of, you know, feeling when I'm driving this car. It makes me always sort of focus on my driving and make sure that I don't overreact to any sort of road condition or any sort of traffic condition. I really like that kind of, you know, setup and things like that. So overall, you know, if you drove a 2019 or 2017 to 2019 model year of the Giulia, of the Alfa Romeo Giulia, of the 2020 Alfa Romeo Giulia, in some way it's really very, well, it's not very different, but certainly has some difference. And also, and let's put into the D mode. Since this car is very new, when I got this car, I think 3 days ago when it just arrived at the dealership, it only has like 13 kilometers on the odometer, which makes, you know, this car is like, it's basically a brand new car. So this car is still in the break-in period. I'm not going to drive it very aggressively, but I'll still put it into D mode. When you put into D mode, the first thing you notice on the screen, it has a G meter instead of your fuel consumptions and all that information. You get a G meter in the center of your little TFT screen to make you feel like now we're getting serious. And the thing is, when you get into the D mode, the steering feel is much more tighter. And the engine will hold the gear much more longer, even though I'm now in the D mode. If I put into the manual mode, and when you're shifting yourself, god damn, this clicking sound is, it's amazing. When you click it, it's just so instant. I am blown away by this special tuned ZF transmission, because I always think that the PDK or any sort of a DSG, the dual clutch transmission, is the best transmission to mimic that manual feeling. But I was wrong. The technology has gone so far that this torque converting traditional automatic transmission can react to things this quickly. And you know, this I just want to click this. I just want to click this all the time. This paddle shifter feels so good. Makes you feel like you're some sort of F1 drivers. You know, makes you feel like you're driving some seriously sort of performance car. This is very nice. So this is my very own, very new mid-year 2020 Alfa Romeo Giulia Lusso limited edition. And since I only spend this little time with this car, do I like the car? Absolutely. So far everything works just fine because this car only has 172 kilometers on it. Nothing should be wrong. But do I recommend you buy this car? Well, actually, no. Like Jeremy Clarkson once said, you were never a real petrolhead until you own an Alfa Romeo. But any Alfa Romeo owner will not recommending you to buy another Alfa Romeo because Alfa Romeo tend to break down quite frequently. I think this is their very charming characteristic, is to break down, like all the other Italian cars, because Italian people, they make sexy machines, they make some of the best quality bags and things like that, but they have human flaws. And I think that's why we love it so much, because you describe this car as your girlfriend, as some sort of a muse out of the sky and things like that. You don't just describe Alfa Romeo as a car, you describe it as a person. And I think that's what makes this car shine so much. So yeah, I think I have covered everything about this limited edition car. I do believe this is one of the first that reached in mainland China, like I said earlier. I don't think there's many more of these cars really on the road. This car, for this price range, like I said, you have lots of options like BMW 3 Series, Mercedes C-Class, Lexuses, or even Volkswagens and things like that. Although, you know, if you want to die earlier, you can definitely choose Volkswagen. I'm sorry, I have to get on the trend with all the Volkswagen Passat kind of skimmishy things. So yeah, I think I have covered everything about this car. I hope you liked this video. If I missed anything, or if you want to know more about this car, please message me or leave the comments down below, or, you know, just give me some sign and tell me if you want more of this. And yeah, I think basically that's it. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye now.